Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Gabby, if you are not familiar with me. I hope you cannot hear the yard work. Of course, the second I sit down to film, they're doing some sort of yard work. My name is Gabby, if you are not familiar with me, and I love to talk all things personal finance, organization, and lifestyle, and you should definitely subscribe if you're into that sort of thing. Today's video is going to be my top 5 personal finance tips for 2025. I have achieved over a 6-figure net worth all within my 20s, and I have been moving towards, several 6 figures now. And all of these tips have definitely helped me out so much on my financial journey. And they're definitely the top tips that I can give to anyone who is looking to improve their financial health in 2025. So let's get right into it. I think in 2025 versus previous years, it is super important to not only look forward and pay attention to your decisions that you're making on a daily basis that are going to create the groundwork for your financial situation in the future, but it's also super important to safeguard your financial well-being and your mental health by making sure you have a safety net below you, and these are all going to be covered in these next 5 tips. So my number 1 tip, which I talk about all the time for anyone on a personal finance journey, is automate your investments and automate your savings. This is the notion of paying yourself first, and it is definitely the number 1 reason that I have invested and saved as much as I have at this age. It takes the guesswork out of personal finance. I like to think of this as almost a work savings plan. So the money, when it hits my account on payday, is not even mine. That money is taken away from my paycheck almost as your employer would do with some sort of work program. I like to think of this as a non-negotiable. It is an amount of money that I'm comfortable with losing every single paycheck that I know is not going to cause me any sort of financial stress or strife, but this money goes straight into a savings account and into my investment accounts, which goes towards my savings and my investment goals. I always say that this is my number 1 personal finance tip, because if you are only leaving yourself what is left over at the end of the month once you've already spent your money, I can guarantee you will not meet your financial goals as fast. Plus, this system makes it really easy for me to know when I will hit my financial goals. For example, if you're saving for a specific reason, a down payment, a house, a trip, for example, all you need to do is take the amount you need and divide it by the number of pay cycles before you need it. And that is the amount that you will set up with your automated banking system. And then that way you know exactly how much money you should be setting aside every single paycheck. So there's no unknown around when you're going to meet your financial goal. If you're in Canada, my favorite way to set up automations is to use Wealthsimple. I'm a huge fan of Wealthsimple. I love using their automated savings plans. I love using their automated investments. I set up exactly what ETFs I want to buy with every single paycheck, and you set it and you forget it. This tip is simple, it's effective, and it keeps you consistent. Tip number 2 is going to be a 6-month emergency fund or more if you're able to, especially if you have unreliable pay or pay that varies a lot. I would recommend not leaning towards a 3-month emergency fund. I feel a lot safer with a 6-month emergency fund, especially in this economic climate. People are losing their jobs left and right, and there is just a lot of uncertainty. And even if it is just for your mental peace, I think that this is a huge tip. Having a cushion for unexpected expenses like car repairs, home maintenance, medical bills if you're in the US, or for job losses is super critical. If you don't currently have an emergency fund, definitely start small. I know that saving up for 6 months of expenses can be overwhelming, but what you really need is 6 months of your fixed expenses or things that you wouldn't be able to cut in the scenario where you lost your job, for example. So this should cover things like your rent, your mandatory bills, things that are hard to get out of, and then of course your groceries, gas, anything you need to do on a daily basis that you wouldn't be able to cut out of your budget. I personally have around 6 months of my fixed expenses in a high yield savings account, so at least that money is making me a little bit of money every single month. And this absolutely gives me peace of mind and just helps me sleep better at night. Tip number 3 is going to be invest regularly and remain calm. I think through 2025 so far, we have seen the markets go completely down and then shoot right back up, and who knows what's in store for us. You never know with the markets. They're very reactive. They're basically like a teenager. So my best tip here is to consistently invest regardless of what is happening with the market. You cannot time the market. You just need to be consistently putting money in regardless of whether it's high or low. Some of the best investors in the world are not able to time the market. So forget about dumping all your money at a specific time. We invest regularly, and as I mentioned, hopefully with an automated system. And how much to invest depends on what your financial financial goals are. Most financial advisors would say somewhere between 15 and 25% is what we should aim for. If you're not currently able to meet 15%, let's say, start where you can, find whatever amount is comfortable for you to set aside, even if it's $20 a month. That still builds the habit of investment. Humans are incredibly habitual, so by building that habit, it's going to be a lot easier for you to maintain it in the future. And when you get more pay raises or when you find ways to cut money from your budget, you can add that money to your investments over time, so then it consistently goes up. I personally aim to invest about 30% of my pay, and this is because I want to reach financial freedom sooner. Things like not having to worry about what job I have in my 40s or potentially when I have a family. So that's why I'm aiming for a little bit of a higher investment rate. Once you've invested, try not to tie too many emotions to the markets. They say that women are actually better investors than men because they usually don't check the stock market on a daily basis. Women usually forget their passwords to their investment accounts and then look at it later in life and are like, oh, look at that, I have a lot more money. So definitely don't panic when markets are down. You still have that same amount of equity in that company. That company's value has just gone down. But as I mentioned, markets are incredibly reactive and it will go back up again. This is all part of the process. Tip number 4 is use a budget and budget regularly and then trim the fat. So this is where I'm gonna shamelessly plug my budget tracker I sell on Etsy. I will leave it in the description box down below and put it up on screen here. It's beautiful, it's gorgeous, and it has everything you need to track all of your monthly expenses every month. And I know a lot of people like to automate their budgeting or they think it takes too much time, but I promise it really takes maybe 5 to 10 minutes a couple times a week to add all of your expenses. And then this way you're also methodically going through exactly what you bought and you're able to process what you're buying in real time. I find that the automating portion is removing the actual thought from the process. And I think that that is a crucial part about budgeting, is to see how much you spend and reflect on your spending. Once you have a regular budget, you'll be able to find ways to cut money from your budget that isn't really bringing you much joy or value. Find things that you don't prioritize that you can easily cut out of your budget to save yourself some money. So for example, for myself, it was unused subscriptions, any food delivery, grabbing quick meals out for convenience, and hitting the bars every Friday. These were super easy for me to cut out. I don't miss them at all. Every single dollar that you don't spend on things that don't bring you value is a dollar that you could be saving and investing, and it makes it a lot more worthy when you're able to spend on things that actually bring you joy. It builds a very healthy relationship with your money because budgeting will begin to be this positive feedback loop where you're actually enjoying your money, and then you're more willing to budget the next month. Tip number 5 is going to be clear on your goals. Whether it's buying a home, traveling, retiring, living debt-free, being able to quit your job and pick up a job that you enjoy a lot more, your financial decisions today should be leading you towards that financial future that you're aiming for. If you don't have a clear vision of what you want out of life, you won't really have financial purpose. When you're clear about what you're working towards, you're better able to make those decisions on a day-to-day basis, especially if it's something that you're actually passionate about. So for example, I know a lot of people found it a lot easier to get themselves out of debt than to invest, because investing towards a retirement just doesn't seem that sexy. But you need to find ways to make that sexy for you. It isn't just retiring when you're 65. What do you want your retirement to look like? Do you want to retire early? Do you want to completely change careers and just do something that you enjoy, like taking care of dogs all day, you know? These are the things that can give you more purpose so that finances can become fun and exciting. Okay, I have a little bonus tip for you guys, because 6 top financial tips doesn't really sound as good as 5. But my 6th bonus tip is going to be diversify your income, and it's okay to want to make more. I think that this is such an important tip. Diversify, diversify, diversify. I used to only make money from my salaried role. That was my primary and only way I was making money. I would sell things on Facebook Marketplace here and there, but the majority of where my money was coming from was from one source. And relying solely on one source for your income is kind of a dangerous place to put yourself, especially in this market. Anything can happen. You can lose your job, you can get sick. A lot of us don't think about what could happen if we become ill one day and we are no longer able to make it to work. You may also be required to take some time to take care of a loved one or something like that. Having some sort of income that is on your own terms that you can fit easily into your lifestyle. And I get it. It's hard to imagine adding any more work hours, especially if you're already tired from your job. I understand how that feels. But if you can find a side hustle that aligns with your hobbies or your passions or something that you enjoy, this is going to be a game changer for exponentially increasing your income and also for safeguarding your mental peace. Knowing I have my side hustle income just in case anything were to happen to my salaried role allows me to dream bigger, take bigger chances, and live life without the anxiety of thinking that all of my money could disappear tomorrow. Especially if you have something like a mortgage, it can be really scary to think that you're not able to pay your bills. Even the best of us can get sick at any point. We can get fired or laid off. We can lose a loved one and need bereavement that we don't have time for. Shit happens, I like to say. And knowing that you can always make some extra money and do it on your own terms from the comfort of your own home is going to give you a lot of mental peace. Plus, I truly believe that pursuing a income stream that is driven by your own personal loves and passions gives us a lot more purpose and value in life. I feel so much more fulfillment than I think I ever would have gotten just by climbing the corporate ladder at my job. By doing this side hustle, it fills in all the gaps of what I needed in life. I truly think that everyone should find some way to make additional money that also is something that they enjoy and love. If you love dogs, go take care of dogs. Go walk the dogs on the street, but find something you love and do it. And then I also want to have a discussion here about allowing yourself to dream bigger and wanting to make more money. I think it's too often talked about how we need to save more money, especially for women. It's always, you gotta be more frugal, stop shopping, stop buying beauty products. And like, I get it. Consumerism is like rampant in our culture right now. But I also think that allowing yourself to dream bigger, allowing yourself to know that the limits are endless if you really apply yourself is something that more people need to hear. And I never would have thought I would have been able to make money like I have. I really doubted myself. I had a lot of self-doubt, and you need to allow yourself to think bigger and get in the headspace of saying, I want more out of life, and that's okay. Okay, those are all of my 6 tips for personal finance in 2025. I hope that these tips were helpful. Which one of these tips aligns best with you? Or do you have any additional tips? What are your number 1 tips for personal finance in 2025? Let me know down in the comments. I would love to hear it. And I will talk to you guys in the next one. Bye.